Hello all and welcome to Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are doing all the accessories for our gorgeous next puppet, and the next puppet's name is Winnie the Secret Witch. Ooh. Now if you're joining us new today, welcome. Firstly, don't forget to subscribe. But if you're joining us new, we are creating puppets, as you can see, for Halloween. We are going to be doing a Halloween play or a Halloween production, if you will, a puppet show on Halloween. And we have already made this guy right here, which is Vance the Vamps. He's your Aussie vampire. With chompers, okay? So now we have this gorgeous girl done. She is gorgeously symmetrical, and she's got beautiful hair and big blue eyes. Lance's is a little bit smaller, but she has big blue eyes. She's got rosy cheeks. She's got pretty lipstick. She's got a tongue, and she's got a dress, and she's got, you know, some accessories here. So just, you know what, guys, this is going to be a two-part series yet again. I'm sorry, guys. Well, I should say 3 altogether, because we have part 1, which was the base. And if you haven't created the base to these gorgeous puppets, I will leave a link to part 1 in the description box down below, and you can make part 1, come back and make part 2. I believe is the eyes, the cheeks, and I can't remember what else it was, but so much has happened. So let's just assume it's all done, obviously. So let's just assume this is part 2 and something is happening in part 2. All right, so you will need lots and lots of color for part 2. I think you'll need the light pink, the blue, the black, the cream. You may need the yellow. I haven't decided whether I'm going to start the dress in this part or not. These are all colors that you will need eventually. Oh, I think we did the tongue in this part. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, just get all your colors ready for this part. Part 3, as it's already complete. It's not edited yet, but it will be edited tomorrow, and you will get it tomorrow. But part 2 is right now. We're not going to talk anymore. We're going to say that you will need some scissors. You will definitely need that sewing, darning, weaving needle, guys. You're going to need that. That's, believe me, there's going to be lots of ends. You will need a 3mm hook. Let's get a close up here, guys. That's better. You'll need a 3mm hook. You'll need a 4mm hook. You will need little fluff and poly fluff and what's it called? Something fluff. I mentioned in a tutorial, but I've forgotten now, to fill up the eyes. So you'll need some fluff and fluff. Hobby fluff, that's it. Hobby fluff. You'll need that. You'll need a couple of stitch markers, 2, 3, 5, 6, I can't remember. And I can't remember whether we used a measuring tape, but have one handy just in case. I don't know, because it took me like 3 days to work on this. It took me 3 days to do all of this, and I did part of the other puppet as well, so I can't remember what I recorded and what I haven't. So just bear with me, guys. I'm not going to talk anymore because, once again, you know, this tutorial goes for a long time. And that's all I'm going to say, guys. I hope you enjoy making gorgeous Winnie the Secret Witch. Ooh. Good luck all. Alrighty, guys, we're going to start off by using our 4mm hook. We're going to be making Winnie's tongue for this part of the project. Just grabbing the tail end of your yarn, we're going to make a slip knot, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Pass your back loop halfway over your finger, hold it there. Pass the other loop all the way over your finger, pop your hook in that little loop, giving everything a tug, and there you go. All right, now we are chaining 2, and a chain is yarn over your hook, pull the loop through to the loop on your hook once, yarn over, do it a second time. We ignore that second stitch we just made, and we pop 2 single crochets in the first stitch. A little awkward here. Let's get a nice close up for you. Just popping your hook in that stitch right there. It's a little awkward. We're going to end up splitting the yarn if we don't be careful. There you go. So you pull the loop through, and you've got 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through both loops. This is a little silly, but do put that stitch marker in there anyway. So you know where to put your hook at the end of your next row. It's a little bit fiddly. I know, it's a little bit fiddly. All right. Now you're going to put the second single crochet all in the same stitch right there. Making sure you hold everything tight because this is where things move around in the beginning. Yeah. Chain 1, turn your work. All right. In that you skip your chain that you've just made here. In that very first stitch, you're doing a single crochet. Like so. Pop your stitch marker in there. And there you go. In the same stitch, you're putting a second single crochet. And there you go. In your next stitch, and I split the yarn, don't you love it? In the stitch with your stitch marker, put 2 single crochets. Now it's going to be hard for me. You need to grab the 2 loops on the hook like so. Do 1 single crochet and a second single crochet. So what you have now is 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Chain 1, turn your work. Now in this round, let's try row. In this row, we're going to do single crochets in every stitch. Now this is the next 2 rows that we do are repeat rows. So single in your first and pop a stitch marker in. Oh, bear with me guys, I've got the back door open today. So I have birds and rain and everything happening in the background. So there you go. Single crochet, a little bit of trivia there. Single crochet across in every stitch, like I said before. We're just doing 1 in every stitch. Right? Before we were increasing in the beginning and the end of the row, but now we are doing 1 in every stitch. Just for this round here. Yeah. So you should still have, I should say row, sorry guys. You should still have 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's these little V's that you're counting right there, yeah? Yep. That's your first row repeat. Now we're going to do a second row. Chain 1, turn. In the first stitch, you're going to put a single crochet and your stitch marker. Like so. Then you're going to put a second single crochet in that same stitch. 2. Then you're going to put 1 in each stitch. 1. 1 into your next. That's a second one. And into your stitch marker stitch, you're putting 2 single crochets. Might be a little tight. Not sure. I'm going to take mine out. Yours isn't tight. You can just work in it. Okay. 2 single crochets. Make sure you've got 2 loops on top. 1 and 2. All right, now get ready. Oh no, not yet. Let's go back to that. Let's chain 1 and turn. Now get ready for repeat rows. These last 2 rows that you did, you're going to repeat them over and over again until we form kind of like the length of the tongue we need. I want you to repeat these last 2 rows for, let's say, 6 more rows. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of my 6th repeat row. Yep. So you should now have a row where you're going to do a normal single crochet across. So just single crochet in your first stitch, like that. Pop your stitch marker in there. And just a single crochet across. And right to the very end, and I'm going to pop this on fast for you, and off we go. Alrighty, how'd you go? Should have just got, oh, I've got 1 more stitch there, hidden in the corners. Alright, last stitch. There. Taking out your stitch marker, and let's just chain 1, pull up that loop for a minute. Grab your little girl. Oops, your little girl, yeah? We're going to be popping her tongue in there. We're going to be doing another row around there, and we're actually going to be slip stitching it across here. So it's going to be really high. It's entirely up to you how long you want her tongue to be. If you don't want her tongue to be hanging right off the edge, I wouldn't do another row actually. We might leave it at this row because this is the row that we're going to turn and start slip stitching across the top of the tongue. Then when we get here, we're going to do a row of single crochet around it just to make these edges look neater. All right. So I wouldn't do another row, but just if you find that your tongue is way up there and you need to have a bit more length, just do another row of single crochets. No increasing, a row of single crochet that way, a row of single crochet back, whatever, but no increasing, yeah? But for me, I think I'm going to leave it like that. Turn your work. This is the tricky part, guys. Where do we put this tongue now? All right, let's just make a little line there. This is the top tongue, so the top of her mouth. Flip it open, and that's the bottom of her mouth, yeah? So you've got your row right there, which is the groove in the middle, yeah? So now your job is to find a stitch, the second stitch, if you will, from the right-hand side or from whatever side you're working on, just under that line groove. Let me get a close-up of the line groove for you so you can see it. See that kind of a line right there? They all have it, but this is more prominent to showing you that's the center of the mouth. We need to get it as close up to the center as we can, but not hitting the center, otherwise the mouth is not going to close properly. That's where you want to put your hook. Grabbing your piece, just making sure your thread is at the back of your work. You can hold it if it helps you. Pop it around that post that you just put your stitch marker in. Take it out. It's a little tricky, this stitch, so bear with me on it, all right? Get it close up so you can have a look. You are pulling a loop through the stitch. Sometimes it helps to just pull it straight through, but I'm going to show you slowly. Pull it through that post and then pull it through to the stitch on your hook. I find it better to pull it through both of them at the same time. It kind of works better. Jumping straight into your first stitch on your red piece and doing a slip stitch like that. Oh, don't lose a stitch. Do your slip stitch, yeah? Then popping your tail back in your hand again, grabbing the very second post, and you're keeping straight along here, yeah? Then grab your tail, bringing it forward again, pulling it through that stitch and pulling it through to the loop on your hook. Might pay to tighten it up a little. Jump straight into your very next stitch on your red piece and do a slip stitch. Pass your tail back into your hand and just find the very next post. Again, trying to keep straight. Now, if you can't remember where straight is, maybe on every third stitch, pop your stitch marker in so you know exactly that you're on the same row. Yep. So grabbing your little thread, pulling it through your post and pulling it through to the stitch on your hook, and then slip stitching into your next stitch on your red. And that's pretty much it, guys. So what I want you to do, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pop this on fast for you because I don't want you to watch me doing it because I know this can be a tad awkward. And I don't want you sitting here watching me do it, but I will pop it on fast for you. And at the end of this row, we can all meet once we get to the very last stitch. All right, so let's just keep going and off we go. Oops, I forgot to go into the red. Got to make sure you go into that red stitch first and then move over to your very next stitch and off we go. Alright guys, I'm actually on my second last stitch here. Now it got really tricky for me, especially around here. The stitches are a tad tight, but try to just go into one of the stitches. I'm not even in frame, sorry guys. Right into your very last stitch with your stitch marker, your slip stitching. Like that. Okay, and now you're just going to go straight into the side stitch of any part of your work. Chaining one, little tricky, and tighten that chain a little bit. You might have found that some of your chains got a bit loose here. Well, don't worry about it. Single crochet into your next stitch of your red, and you're not attaching it to anything now. You're just doing a single crochet on that red. Yeah, single crochet in your next stitch, and you're going through everywhere where you see a space. So a stitch and then a chain, a stitch and then a chain, a stitch, oh, it's a tight stitch there, gets tighter towards the bottom, and then a chain. And this area here will be fairly tight. Just go into the second last and into that very last stitch where you did 2 single crochets in the beginning. You're going to do 1, you might pay to crochet over the tail, 2, all in that same stitch, then jump into the second one and do 1 and 2, turn, and now you're working along the sides of the tongue on the other side. Tighten it up a little, don't make it too loose, and off you go doing the other side of the tongue. All right, nearly there, almost. And when we get up there, we're going to slip stitch one last time. Okay, to make it even with the other side that's really close to the edge, we're going to slip stitch one last time. And that little tail that you see here, we're going to have to weave that in under there. All right, so don't stress about the tail yet. Into the second last stitch right there. And into, go into that last stitch with a slip stitch. Pull a loop through. Give your work a cut. Now, I forgot to mention, and hopefully you didn't do this, pop your hand in here and make sure you can get your hand into the puppet and you didn't go through the base of that. You only went through the top layer of it, okay? And there you go, and that's her. And that's her little mouth right there. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to stitch both sides of her mouth because we want to keep her mouth straight. Okay, but before we do, we're going to weave in these ends. So real quickly, grabbing your stitch marker, starting with this one here, your last end that you did. Did I say grabbing a stitch marker? I meant grabbing a needle. Hello, Mary. What's wrong with her today? They're saying, oh, she's all over the place today. She's all over. You are there. All you're going to do is pop your needle through the back of anything. All right, just anywhere, anything. Yeah, just go through the back like that and work your way down these little stitches here, hiding the tail one way. You can go a little bit more if you like, it doesn't matter, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. And then you're just going back in that direction as well. Different area, of course, because you don't want to unravel what you just did. Making sure you can't see the needle from the front. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, didn't I? So naughty. And you only need to do it twice. It won't come undone. Okay, that one there. And again, with this one here, you're tucking him at the back as well. All right, so grabbing him and just find some spaces anywhere you like to tuck him at the back of the tongue. Oh, that's very tight. Hello. Just make sure it's not too tight or it won't work, yeah? And when you're done doing that, you can go up, further up if you want, or you can just keep going backward and forward there. I would go further up and get rid of this tail because it may be noticed after a little while. You don't want it to be noticed, so go further up a little bit. Like that. Then just go back into a few stitches on the way back. Don't need to go into there, yeah? Just go further down a little bit and then you can cut your piece. Oh, I forgot to do it. That's better. Cut your piece like that. just give him a bit of a stretch and that tail will stay under. Now your tongue and everything is still loose, so it's not going to work well. She's going to look crooked, a bit like Lance. Now Lance can look crooked because, well, he's a bloke, yeah? So we want her to be symmetrical. We want her to, you like that? He's a bloke. We want her to be perfect. So what we're going to do is flip the mouth over, make it all straight, like that. Flip the mouth over. Get the same thread as this colour, which is here, and thread it on your needle. So thread it through a needle, your sewing needle, just a little bit. Oh, if I can get that. And you don't need much. You just need, I don't know, that much. Just like, 4 fingers, 8 fingers. That's it. Give it a cut. Because you're only going to stitch some sides down. You're not going to do a knot because you're going to weave that end in there. All right, so what you're going to do is just stitch. See where let's try her. See where her little groove is there? You're going to stitch the groove down a little bit. You're going through one side of the puppet, right in through to the other side. Leave yourself a little tail there. A little tail. Yeah. Go back down into another area of the puppet. As close as you can get to the edge, yeah? It's almost like you're sewing the side seams together. How far do we want to go? Yep, that'll do. Just once and twice. Now, if you want, you can do in between those stitches, one way, back through the main stitch, right there, that way, and then go back, just one more time. So you're going up and down, that way, and that way. That's it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. What we want to do is just close it up. Let's go back again because I just feel like going back again. Now, where you want to put your thread is you want your thread on this side so that you can weave it in on this side of your piece. Yeah. All right. So now all you're doing is giving yourself a little bit of a weave in. It's going to be pretty thick because you've been going through it a few times. That's okay. And back the other way. Not too far because you have that second tail to weave in. Oh, by the way, being careful not to go through when you're weaving, don't go through that thickness there, yeah? Just the top layer of your puppet. Or should I say bottom layer. All right, that's it. That's it. And what I want you to do is weave that other tail end in, which we'll just do quickly now. So just find some places where you can weave this little guy in. Oh, but it didn't want to come through. Hello. I've got the tail stuck somewhere. Don't you love it? There we go. We're out. That's good because it means it's really tight and that is never going to come undone. Just stretch it a little bit so that you can put the last thread through. And that will never come undone, which is fantastic. Oh, that's so tight. All right, so do that twice only. Don't even do it 3 times like I usually do because that's not going to work this way. And there you go. So if you were to put your hand in the puppet, you would still have plenty of room to move, right? Still have plenty of room for her to move, but you want that part closed for her. You want her looking gorgeous. Now, you're going to actually have to do the opposite side. We might actually do it together so that the only reason is I want you to make it straight and not too, well, when I say straight, not too far off. Now, I've noticed this one's just moving a little bit. It's just the way this puppet's made. It's made, when we make it in the spiral, it kind of moved a little bit, yeah? And with Lance the Vance, it looks okay that he's crooked, but with her, it's going to look a bit strange. So what we're going to do is make sure, firstly, thread your needle. We'll do this together. Okay, thread your needle again. And there you go. You don't have to leave it too long. You know, you saw before. And I had too much left over before even. So that's way too long. Yeah, but anyway. All right, what you want to do is keep it, if you want to check it, in fact, it's probably better to do this. Let's do this where we just pop a stitch marker in the edge of this side right here. Now that's the edge we want to do exactly the same with. I would pop a stitch marker in and check it. You may, oops, you may not, I can't show you from this angle, it's really hard to show you, but you may find that that's too low or that's going to be too high. But I think that will be perfect. If you're not really sure, remember where you stitched before, just run your fingers along here and stitch a little in there. That is actually where I want to stitch anyways. All right, so I'm going to leave it like that. Grab the needle, and I've split the stitch there, so I'm just going to go up the side there and just pop the thread through. Yep, from down to up. Down to up. Ooh, don't pull it too far through. You'll lose your tail. All right, now remember what we did before. We went through a few of the stitches. I think I've gone too far down this way now, but I'll check in a minute. I'll put it through. Not too far in, just further on the edges of your work, yeah? And in fact, what we will do, we'll try it. If you don't like the way it's sitting on your hand, you can take this stitch undone. In fact, I'm not going to do any more. I want to try it to make sure that I'm happy with the way it sits. All right, so there we go. I think I'm happy with the way it sits. So that's it. Well, it's a bit loose now because I've been playing with it, but that's it. I'm going to tighten it up here like that. I might just do one more stitch to the side there, like that. Coming back down and through to the rest. That's it. Keep going over and over and over again. And then you just, what are you going to do? Weave in these ends. Problem solved. Yep. I'm done. I'm going to weave in the ends now because I'm happy with her. Once again, I'm not going to overweave because, you know, there's plenty of thread in it. I'll just do 2. 1 and 2 across. Really, I'm not going to overweave. She's done. Now, she's going to have clothing on her anyway, so you're not going to see the little tugging that you see here. You're not going to see that. She's going to have clothing there. So she'll have rosy cheeks, clothing. This is why we need to do 2 tutorials for this. I'm sorry, guys, because we're not going to fit it all in one. I'm pretty sure it's not all going to fit into one tutorial. No way. All right, so here we go. And that's it. Again, not fussing. I wanted to do her rosy cheeks in a pink, and I found the dark pink a little too bold for my liking. Plus, I haven't decided whether to do her lips in dark pink or whether to do her lips in red. So I'm going to forget all about the dark pink. And the other piece that I just showed you, it was done in a 3mm hook and I found it too small. So we're going to use our 4mm hook and we're going to use the light pink. I think I like the light pink for her cheeks. All right, so let's, rosy cheeks, yeah? So let's start with first, oh, that's right, we're doing a magic loop or magic ring, magic circle, grabbing your tail, leaving it in front, grabbing your working end and passing it over your fingers and your tail there, forming a little X right there. Using your 4mm hook, pop it under your loop, the front loop, pull the back loop up and through, and you should have that, and these 2 here. So what you need to do is try and grab everything without it falling apart or collapsing, which can happen. So transfer it into your other hand quickly, chain 1 and a single crochet in the center, making sure you're holding everything, and that's 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Just grab that tail, give it a bit of a tug, not too much because we need to put some single crochets in there. And I want you to grab your little stitch marker, pull up my loop, and pop it in that single crochet. In that stitch, if you will, if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. I'll help you find it at the end of the round. All right. In the same space, you're going to pop another 5 single crochets. So off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all together, try that again. you should have 6 single crochets. That's including that first one. So what you do here is you tug your little tail like so, pop it down and slip stitch, and I'll split mine, which is probably good because I can show you where to go now. I slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker. So you grab that top loop there and your back loop. It's your front and your back loops. Pull the loop through and pull it through to the loop on your hook. Just giving your tail a tug again, make sure it's closed. Chain 1 single crochet in the same stitch you are in, like so, popping your stitch marker in that stitch. This is very similar to making our eyes, okay? So we're putting a second single crochet in that stitch, and very similar to beanies almost as well. 2 into your next. Not exactly, because you need more stitches for beanies, but anyway, 2 single crochets into that stitch, 2 into your next, and I'm not counting, am I? I do apologise. So you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 into your next makes 8, 2 into the next makes 10, so you're on track because we started with 6 stitches, and 2 into your last. Now being careful, this one right here is your slip stitch, so that's not a stitch at all. This one is, so put 2 single crochets in there, 1 and 2, slip stitch into the stitch, with your stitch marker, all the way through, pull it through to the loop on your hook, remove your stitch marker, chain 1, single crochet into the same stitch, pop your stitch marker in. Very, very similar, almost the same as doing your eyes for your puppets, okay? So you need a second single crochet in there. This is your third round. You need 1 single crochet only in the next, okay? Then you're putting 2 into your next, 1 and 2, 1 into your next, 2 into your next, 1 and 2, and that's the pattern in this round, yeah? So 1 into the next, 2 into your next, all right? I'm going to pop this on fast until we get to the end of the round, and off we go. Into your second last, we probably didn't need to put that on fast, but anyway, and 1 into your last stitch, and a slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker. So what we're going to do is chain 1 or pull up a loop, take out your stitch marker. Don't cut it yet because you want to see if this is the size that you would like to have her rosy cheeks. I think it is. You're going to need 1 there and 1 on the other side, maybe just on the edge of each side of the cheek. All right, so let's get on with the next part. You're just going to cut it. If you're happy with that size, give it a cut. Pull that loop through. Making sure, I forgot to mention, to make the tail a little longer. Oh well, we'll do the best we can in the round, and if we need more, well, we'll just get more. So we're here. What I want you to do now is make another one of these. We need 2. All right, so head off on your own, make a second one, and make the tail longer because you're going to use the tail to sew your little rosy cheek on. All right, go ahead and make a second one, and I'll meet you back here once you're done. Alrighty guys, what you would have is that. Yeah, we are going to attach this one the way I've done here. Now, before we do, we just quickly have to weave in that middle end right here. All right, so just grab your little tail, thread it into your needle, and don't let anyone tell you this isn't going to come undone. Okay, it can. All right, so what I want you to do is just pop your needle in and out of a few stitches there, making sure you can't see the needle from the front. Oh. All right, so well, that's really tight, but that's good because that means it's not going to come undone. Go into another section, and it probably won't come undone because you've got it on your piece, but it doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. Now go back in the same direction that you came through, but different stitches, which is really, really tight for me. Just once, and I think that should do it. That will hold. All right, so don't stress too much, but still weave it in because it needs to be done. Now, I found that tail there, it worked all the way in the round, so that was good, and I still had plenty left to cut. So that wasn't too bad. With your tail, it's going to start from the back, so it can be hidden, yeah? Now, before you do, grab your measuring tape. What I actually did was, that's the part where your top part of your hand is there, yeah? So from there, you measure all the way down, and I came up with around 12 or 13 centimeters. So what I did was I popped the center of that flat bang right in the middle of my stitch marker, of my measuring tape, which is between 6 and 6.5 centimeters. When you do one, the other one, all you have to do is marry up to the other side, right? So find what you think is roughly the center of your piece. Like I said, 6.5 centimeters, that's kind of what it worked for me. So there you go. Now grab your sewing needle and grab the thread of this guy right here. When you find your center, make sure your tail is facing upwards. And when you find your center, hold your piece down and then start sewing. Now, once you do that first one, your second one will be a lot easier. All right. So let's just assume that this is your first one, which it is for you. It's the second one for me, but it is for you. So all you want to do is find, so I'm going to move mine up a little bit, because what happens is I'm not going to move it up. I'm going to keep it straight. It will stretch down because we are putting our needle through a top loop, and I'll explain that in 1 second. So for now, you're leaving your tail the way it is here, and all you're doing is jumping into a stitch from that side. Being careful not to take all of your stitching from underneath, just a top loop, just sort of like some of that top stitch right there. I actually like to go around the stitch, but if you can go through it, that's fine too. So go through the stitch a little, and that will pull that downwards. So that's going to lift it all the way down to where that one is. Now just be careful, because our pattern for the actual puppet section does curve a little, and that's part of when you're creating in the round and not making two pieces and attaching, yeah? So what I want you to do is just be wary about, let's assume you're putting your second one on, about how far you are taking your piece, all right? So I'm just going to bring that up again. And where we're going is in the top loop. So here you've got your two loops, okay? That's called the stitch. This is the front loop, and that is your back loop of your stitch. You are placing your needle in that front loop, yeah? Avoiding the back completely. Place it into one loop only. Then going into a stitch surrounding. You may find it difficult because this part here has got a bit of a gap. Just going through some stitching where you want your piece to sit. All right, just being wary. This will close up like this, so just be wary about that because we're going through a top loop. Okay, now again, if you put it on a little bit crooked, it's not going to be noticed at all. It's just going to look like she's got rosy cheeks in a different area. So we've gone in the cream section, yeah? Now we're going to go back into the pink, but that loop right there. Not this first loop that you see on this side, but that very top loop. I'll call it a top loop. It's called a front loop really, but I will call it a top loop. All right, so I did put that in there, and then go into some of your stitching in the cream, making sure you're only collecting the stitching and not the work underneath, yeah, being careful. And if you're not sure, pop your hand in your puppet and check him out. But I wouldn't, or check her out because it's a girl, because I don't want to move my piece, yeah? So we're in the cream, yep. Let's go into the pink. Making sure you're not collecting too many loops. I did that before with this and it's pulled up a thread a little bit there, but you can't tell too much. All right, so just making sure you're only going through the stitch and not splitting yarn on your pink. The cream, it doesn't matter because your pink is going to go over it in a minute. All right, it will literally go over it once you put. That's why putting it in the top loop brings the pink downwards at the back, if that makes any sense. See, it brings it down. Okay, so now we're going through some more loops here on your cream and back into your top loop of your pink. All right, so I'm going to let you keep doing this in the round. I'm going to pop it on fast and I will meet you up when we get around to that section there where we first started. All right, so just keep going and occasionally look at your piece. Don't think it's too high up. It's going to be too high up. Once we start crocheting that, sewing that down, it'll start to shrink down a little bit, all right? But if you want to adjust it a bit, you can. You can just adjust it to suit you. So we're going, are we in the top loop? No, we're in the cream. And off we go. I'll pop this on fast for you and off we go. All right, guys, how'd you go? I'm almost there. Actually, I am there. If you think about it, I only really have that last stitch to go back into. So I'm going to go back into it, but I'm going to show you a little tip, if you like. If you look down at your piece and you're not happy with the way it sits, this one here is too far over here or this one, you can pull it to suit you. You can start changing her and popping her in other stitches to suit you. But you know what? I'm going to leave it like that. That looks gorgeous for me, yeah? She's got beautiful rosy cheeks now. Before you weave anything in, pop your hand in and make sure you haven't collected any threads from under here, which can happen, all right? So there you go. All right, so that is her rosy cheeks done. She's so cute. I can't wait to see her finished. Now, when you're weaving in this end, it's super duper easy. All you're doing is popping your end into some stitching like that on the inside of your pink, making sure you're not catching that, yeah? And pull it through. Don't pull it too tight, because if you do, that's going to pull her whole her whole cheek over. Looks like an eye, doesn't it? You can get away with it being an eye, but I don't want to. Now, going back in the other direction, just split a very tiny little bit of yarn and just pop that through, making sure you're not catching the back of your puppet. Yep, pop it through. That's easy. That's how you weave that end in. Believe me, that's not coming undone at all. That will not come undone. All right, so just give it a tug and the tail is hidden. So far you have her tongue. Whoops, it's all curled up. You have her tongue and you have her little rosy cheeks. Now we're going to focus on doing her eyes. We're going to be using a 3mm hook for her eyes. You will need this colour for the back of her eyes. All right. So making the back of her eyes, you will need to start off exactly the same way we did that pink. All right. So you're going to grab your tail and make a magic ring, magic circle, magic loop, pull the loop up and through. You know this part because you just did the cheek. Chain one and single crochet in that stitch. I'm going to do a second one and then add the stitch marker. It was just a lot easier to do that. I'm going to tug that a little bit because it's too loose. I just find it a lot easier to grab the stitch marker once I've done my second stitch. Well, that didn't help anyway. It was still tough. It's still hard to get the stitch marker through. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, so we've got 2 single crochets there. We need 6 altogether, so let's do another 4. I'm going to rush this a little bit because you know how to do it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You've already done it with the pink, so you know this part. Give it a tug, slip stitch into your first stitch. So altogether you should have 6. Yep. Pull the loop through like so, taking out your stitch marker. Oops. Chain 1 and 2 in every stitch in the round. 1, pop your stitch marker in. Like so. And I'm going to rush through this. 2. 2 into the next. 3. She says 4 as she stalls. 2 into the next. 5. 6. 2 into the next. 7. 8. 2 into your second last. 9. 10. Oh, don't split that yarn. 2 into your last. 11 and 12. It's important to get the count right with the eyes because you have to make 2 sides and they have to marry up. All right. So slip stitch into the first stitch. Pull the loop through. Pull it through to the loop on your hook. Take out your stitch marker. Chaining 1 single crochet in the same stitch. Stitch marker. All right, and 1 into the same stitch you're in. So you've got 2 into the first, 1 into your next, 2 into your next, 1 and 2, and then 1 into your next. Okay, you know this part. It's 2 1 2 1 2 1. All right, I'm going to let you head off on your own. I'm just going to pop it on fast for you. I'm not going to send you off. I'll pop it on fast and I'll meet you when you get to the last stitch. And off we go doing our next one, which is 2. Yep, and off we go 1 and 2. Alright, and we have 1 stitch left in the round, and you just put your last 1 stitch in there, and then you slip stitch to join. You should have 18 stitches in the round. Alright, pull a loop through, pull it through to the loop on your hook, and take out your stitch marker. Now, if you did lance the vamps, you would probably just do a round of single crochets here. But for the girl, we're making her eye a little bigger. So we're going to do 1 more increase round, which you didn't do before, right? And that is chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch you are in. So you didn't do this one with the pink, okay? Okay, and you put a second single crochet in there. And for this round, you're putting a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So just 1 in each, 1 and 1 into the next. And then you're putting 2 into your next. 1 and 2. And that's the repeat. So you go 1 1 2, 1 1 2, 1 1 2 all the way across. Oh, don't knock off the frame. She's going to knock off the frame. All right. So we've got 2 in there. So now we go 1 1 into the next and 2 into your third. That's how you remember it. 1 into the first, 1 into the second, and 2 into the third. I'm going to pop this on fast and I will meet you up at the end of this round, you doing 1 1 and 2, 1 1 and 2, and off we go with our 1 1. And I've got my last 2, so 1 there and 1 into the next one, like so. And then we're going to slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker, pull a loop through, take out your stitch marker, chain 1, single in the first stitch, stitch marker back in, and now what we're going to do, if I can get it in, it's probably split that, but I'll fix that up at the end of the round. Now what we're going to do, easy round, you do a single crochet in every stitch in the round. And if you played your cards right, 18 plus 6 is 24. You should have 24 stitches. I'm going to pop this on fast and I will meet you at the end of the round, and off we go. Alrighty guys, I'm on my last stitch here, and you'll notice it's starting to curve. Absolutely normal, don't stress. I knew I'd split that stitch. Slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker in it. Pull a loop through, pull it through to the loop on your hook. Pull up a loop, make sure you count your stitches, that there's 24 there. Let's just pretend I counted them. Do you like that? Now what I want you to do, remember how you weaved in your pink tail at the back? I want you to weave in that cream tail, just the middle one, not this one. We're going to need that. So actually, no, we won't need that one. You can weave in both of these at the back. This can be weaved down the back and that can be weaved at the back, because we're going to use the white from the eye part here to sew ours together and to sew it onto the puppet. Now we're going to do the centre of the eye in black. Now I can't do it in black for you because you will not be able to see it. Look, I can't even see it, right? So we're going to do it in pink, but I want you to do yours in black. And you're going to start it and do exactly the same way we did our backing, yeah? So, you know, you do your normal magic, ring magic, circle magic, loop using your black and your 3mm hook still, and do your magic. Circle, ring, thing, loop happening. Chain 1, she's all over the place now. Single in that centre, do a second one, and then you can hopefully find your first stitch with a stitch marker, we hope, she says, as she knows she's going to struggle. Oh yeah, I'm struggling. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it at the end of the round. We will, I promise. Okay, so you've got 2 single crochets. You need to do what? Another 4. And off we go. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so altogether you should have 6. Give everything a tug. Once again, you are slip stitching into that first stitch with your stitch marker in it. But this time, because we're changing his colour eyes, I want you to slip stitch, pull a loop through like so, pull up a loop, don't split the yarn. Let's just say you didn't split it like I just did. Don't split the yarn. And just give it a tug. And you will have that. What I have there, you'll have that. Then I need you to grab the very next colour, which is the blue. All right, so we're doing 2 rounds of the blue, so don't cut your thread at the end of this round. Now, when you're adding your new colour, entirely up to you, yours truly does not start on an end where there's a tail. I just kind of go to the opposite end. You don't need to. It's just something I do. It saves, when you're weaving in later, it's not as bulky in one area. So pop your loop through and just pull your tail forward. Chain 1. Let's move everything out the way for a second. And just doing a single crochet in that stitch, like so, without splitting it, like so. Oh, oops, I'm throwing the stitch marker everywhere. All right, so then you pop your stitch marker in, yep. And once again, you are popping a single crochet in the same stitch and 2 single crochets into every stitch and crocheting over your tail, yeah? So 2 into your next stitch, 2 into your next stitch, 1 and 2, and you can drop that tail now. Easy, yeah. Now you've got the stitch where your knot is. Pop your hook in, drop your knot at the back, or your tail at the back, and single crochet over it, which is 1 and 2. 2 single crochets into the next. Now, if you're not sure where that is, you can always count your stitches, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you know that you need 12, yeah? So it's 9, 10, 11, 12. So that little bit in there is a slip stitch. You've got to jump over here. All right, hope that made sense. Yeah, and you single crochet 2 into that stitch, or 1 and 2. Single crochet into your next, or 1 and 2. And I would count my stitches in the round before I slip stitched. All right, so in the meantime, what I want you to do is slip stitch to join. I won't do it. Slip stitch to join. Don't cut your yarn. Meet me back here in one moment and I'll be ready to do the rest of the eye with you. Alrighty guys, I popped my blue on the black. I'm just going to slip stitch into the stitch with your stitch marker, by the way. I just removed mine. Pull a loop through, and that's what you should have so far. Chain 1. Now that we've got the black covered, we don't have to worry about it anymore. In the same stitch, you are doing your normal single crochet. Pop your stitch marker in there, like so. Single crochet in the same stitch yet again. And we're doing the same as before, where we're doing 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 in the round. So 1 in your next stitch, 2 in your next stitch, 1 and 2. 1 in your next and 2 into your next. And let's just head off quickly and I'll meet you at the end of the round. And off we go. 1 and 2. And 2, and in your very next, which is your last stitch, you're just doing 1. Now slip stitch to join. Pull a loop through and we are cutting our blue. And now we're doing 2 rounds of the white. All right, so grabbing your white. All right, making sure you are using your white and not your cream. There is a slight difference. It will make the eye stand out if you're using the white. All right, you can't tell. You can see a little bit there. That's white, that's cream. You can't tell until you actually have the big lighting on there when you're doing the actual puppet show, which you're not doing and I am, so it doesn't really matter. Pop your hook in. You like that? Doesn't really matter. I'm rushing now, guys. Pop your hook in, pull a loop through, pass your tail forward, chain 1 and single crochet in the same stitch. Popping your stitch marker in there, like so. All right, so in this next stitch, in the same stitch, you're doing a single crochet. Yeah, we're crocheting over the tail. And in every stitch, what are you doing? Before you did 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way. Now you're going to do 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, and so on. And off we go. 1 into the next, 1 into your next, and 2 into the very next. Making sure you're crocheting over your tail. Pop that tail at the back. 1 into the next, 1 into the next, 2 into your very next. I'm going to pop this on fast for you and off we go. And 1 into your very last stitch. You needed to have 1, 1 there, 1 into the second last, 1 into the last, and then a slip stitch to join, like so. Pull a loop through, pull it through to the loop on your hook, pull up a loop. Actually, don't pull up a loop, just chain 1. In the same stitch, you're going to do a single crochet. pop your stitch marker on like normal. And this round, very simple, single crochet in every stitch in the round. I'm going to pop this on fast for you, and off we go until we get to the end of the row. I'm sorry, round. Off we go. And in our very last stitch there, like so, slip stitching to join. Oh, if you can get that in there. Pull the loop through, pull up a loop, count your stitches, make sure you have 24 and give it a cut. Make sure you leave a long tail. I didn't do that. I'm so naughty. Leave a really long tail, guys. Make it long because you're going to use it to sew your sides together. Now, if you didn't leave a really long tail like I didn't just there, you can actually use the cream to sew the pieces together. I personally prefer to use the white, but it doesn't matter because it's so close to each other. It doesn't make a difference. And then you can use the white to sew it onto your piece, onto her head, which is there, right? Well, not like that though. She's going to be sewn like that. That's going to make her rosy cheeks look rosy cheeks, yeah? Before they look like eyes, they're rosy cheeks. All right, so that's what I want you to do, is to make sure you have 2 of these. We've made one. I need you to do your second one, and then we will join our piece. First, we'll join our 2 pieces together. We'll put the stuffing in there, and then we'll join it, add it to the puppet. But what I want to do, guys, is because it's taking such a long time for this tutorial, we're going to do the rest of this in part 3. But for now, what I want you to do is make sure you have 2 of these and 2 of these. Meet me back here tomorrow, because part 4 will be uploaded tomorrow. I'm lying. Let's try it. Part 3. Part 3 will be uploaded tomorrow, definitely. But in the meantime, you need to do 2 more of these, and I would like for you to weave in all your ends inside your piece, right? It doesn't have to be overdone, but just make sure you do, and make sure you weave that center piece if you haven't yet done. Weave that center bit in there. All right, so go ahead and do the 2 sets of eyes. All right, thank you so much for joining us here at Wow Crochet Designs. We are, as you may have noticed, been doing lots and lots of puppets. We're actually only doing 3, but the parts look like a lot because there's a lot to do on them. So we're making 3 puppets for a stage production, which will take place on Halloween. Very exciting. And our subscribers have helped me choose the color combination for what you see right here. So if you want to be a part of being able to choose the next colour combination for our next project, be sure to be on our lives at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, Melbourne, Australia times. That's when we do our live antics, and that means we get to choose a colour combination for our very next project. Otherwise, we have also lives on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Melbourne, Australia time. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and do all the wonderful things that you do for us already, which is fantastic. Join me here tomorrow for the rest of the puppet of Winnie the Witch, or Winnie with the Secret Witch, I should say. And she will be finished this time tomorrow. Yay, get excited. Thanks so much for watching, and ciao for now.